好，那我问是用中文问还是英文问呢？
随便你。你觉得英文，你用中文问我就用中文答好了，你用英文问我。
那我用英文答，那我用英文问吧。但因为我就是写的问题用中文写的，所以那我没事，我用英文问吧。
OK。没关系。
好，但确实是就是翻译可能会有偏差，所以。
对，因为我之前遇到过这种事情，然后他们翻错，就翻的就很让人纠结，然后我还要去跟他们的 editor 就是理论说我当时不是这么讲的，他有那个曲解我的意思什么
的。不过这个应该是不会发表的，因为它现在因为这是一个
paper 是吧？
对，像一个non-reporting 的一个课，所以它对的一个 final project。那我就问了。
好。
So could you describe when did you because this film was this documentary was filmed both in Tibet and in Shanghai, right? So could you describe the process, like when did you arrive Tibet and how did you follow the two students on their way to the school in Shanghai?
All right. So the whole filming process is about 3 months. Well, actually, it's 2 months. 2.5 months, and I spent about 2 weeks trying to get access to the school. And once I got access, I started filming immediately. And I spent a month in Shanghai filming the school, on campus, and how students would study, and the boarding schools, and how the courses were being taken. That sort of thing, and basically their boarding school life, and that was a month. And then I traveled back with the students and the teachers on train for 2 days, and then we arrived in Tibet, and they're still trying to cramping for the test, so I documented that for 2 weeks, I believe, and then they took the test. I documented that, and basically I just spent a month in Tibet, and that was it.
May I ask what test is it? Is it like a final exam?
Yeah, so the students I am following, there are middle school students. They're in their 9th grade. So they're 9th graders. They're about to take the test to enter into high school. So this is a state entrance exam for high school. And because it's a exam for high school, they're required to take their exam in their place of birth, which means they have to go back to Tibet to take the exam.
So why are the teachers following them on their journey back to the hometown? Is it
because it's an organized trip? It's a school organized trip, and the teachers were their guardians basically, and they take the kids back to Tibet, and they have a designated location for them to live in, and for them to study for another 2 weeks, and sort of like working in a sprint, cramping for the exam for the last 10 to 12 days. That was that.
Okay, so during your filming in Tibet, like what kind of barriers and challenges did you encounter? And like regarding the ethnic and religion and like privacy issues, like what kind of obstacles you have faced?
How do I put this? I don't really encounter any barriers from the officials. It was a personal documentary to me, and I'm a one-woman band. I'm filming myself. I don't have a third person with me. It's not like a big crew. So I'm following the students and following the teachers. I'm basically on campus, and when I was traveling with them, I'm with them all the time. So I was part of the school group. So I did not encounter any barriers and interference from the government directly, but I do have I do have some parameters from the school that they required me what to shoot or what not to shoot. In terms of what I can film, is what they are, in the school is something like they're, they cannot, well, basically I cannot follow them in the dormitory once they're trying to, do some private tutorings in the dormitory. I cannot follow that. I cannot shoot that. Just some of the parameters that the principal gave me in the school. But that was the only barriers I have.
So do you think these parameters, are they like, how did the school make this kind of restrictions? Like, based on what? Is it like a general restriction that apply to all the students related documentary, or because they are Tibetan students, and are they like some brief from the government?
Well, I think that really depends. When I tried to get access to school, because this is the first documentary ever about a Tibetan boarding school, so mine is sort of like exclusive access to the story. They have some concerns, and from the very first day they told me that, you know what, our school is very special, and our school is a Tibetan boarding school, and all the students were racially segregated, and the camera was the first time was ever allowed on campus. So that was the first time they ever, experienced something like this. So they have a lot of concern, and we talk a lot, and basically I believe that the first thing they require me is never disturb the students. They're studying their usual daily activities. I should never disturb their, regular life. That's for starters. And secondly, because it's a Tibetan boarding school, and there are a lot of political courses that was taken in the school, and the proportion of those political courses are a little higher than a regular school. So I cannot film certain political courses or classes for reasons I don't really know. I can only film one class they assign to me and the courses they're taking that they are assigned to me. You know what I'm saying?
So the courses that are assigned to you are, none of them are those political courses?
Well, they do assign me some political courses, but it was not all of them. I cannot, it's just basically I don't have the freedom to shoot whatever I want or whenever I want. Basically, I go to the school, and then I meet with the principal, and he would tell me that, today you can shoot this in this classroom from what time to what time. So that was it, and I followed the rules.
Yeah, but it's kind of tricky that they didn't abandon you from all the political courses, and they still leave some to you, and it's not like so what kind of agenda do you feel like they have? Are they supposed to present some positive image, or
I think it's more about patriotism. I think they want the film is more about how they how the student will receive patriotic education. So that was the main focus for the school, and that's their expectation from the film. But I've told them from the very beginning that this is a documentary. I have to shoot. I have to present whatever is happening there, and more to the reality, more true to the reality. And they probably want to manipulate how I shoot or what I can shoot through those parameters and the rules they gave me, and in order to change the content or somehow manipulate the content of my film. So that's basically, I think that's the agenda. They want me to shoot something good and positive of their education, and they want things that within the guideline of the government, and which they are. Most of the courses and the education the children are receiving, they are within the guideline of the government. It's just when they're being made into a film, people from different perspectives, especially from Western countries, might see this differently. Patriotic education may become, brainwashing. That's how people receive, but it's just what it is.
Yeah, so did you realize this kind of agenda at the beginning, or like since what point did you gradually start to realize this? And how do you, like after you have realized this, how do you balance the like the opinions from different sides, and just how do you make your documentary the way you want it to be?
I see. Well, you know what? Because they're very clear to me from the very beginning, so I understand their concerns. I understand, certain things. If I document it, and I've included in the film, may incur some trouble, especially to the students and the teachers. Some of the interviewees in my films. So I do want to make this film more of a cultural discussion, rather than a political one. So initially the film was 40 minutes and it was very provocative. And I don't want the film to be too provocative. So that's why I tone it down and I cut out a lot of the materials out, because I just feel like, the kids, when I'm talking to them, when I'm filming them, they're very honest. Their candidacy they're very candid to me, and the way that I am very surprised. So I feel like if I cannot protect them in my film, which is just really, it's doing a very bad thing. The film is really not what I really want to do anymore. I want to bring people's attention to the issue, at the same time, not to, put them in danger or in any trouble. So when I was editing the film, I tried to make this discussion, bring the discussion more on a cultural level. We talk about culture, religion. We talked about how they miss their language, how, right now the education system is not really doing a better job at, protecting their culture and their language. I tell the story and this sort of angle, instead of, doing this, everyone is brainwashed, everyone is, politically curved and shaped in a way that the government wants. People may think it that way, but that's what the audience think, and people from different perspectives may see this way. But that's what this is not what I'm saying in my film. And I want to make my personal opinion very little in the film, and so to say that the film is not very opinionated. It's I want to make it more objective and more true to the reality.
So what kind of, like, in order to make this documentary like more objective, like what kind of effort do you make? What like perspective did you bring in spite of the children, the students, and the voices from the school? Are there any other voices you try to include in?
The thing is that I want to make the film more objective, meaning that I want to make it more observant. Is it more observation rather than making different sides and then having people from different sides debate in my film? That's not that. I try to interview the students and the teachers, but not experts on these issues. Because experts, they have different opinions and objectives, and they have their own agenda sometimes, and they have their own opinion and theories about boarding school and how this policy goes, and is it bad or good. And I don't want to bring experts into my film, which would make it a debate or some sort of just make it too political, that I think. So I want to make it more observant. I want to make the film as a pure observation of the story and how the people, how the students, the children, and the teacher are living currently inside these schools. And it's just me filming them and documenting, and that was it.
If we go back to the previous question, when you say protect, you want to protect the children. I know it may be obvious, but could you explain a little bit more? Like, if you didn't edit, like, if you didn't crop some, like interview, they say, like, what kind of outcomes may be?
It was later occurred to me that some of the conversations we are having are a little too provocative, meaning that they're politically involved. There are some complaints about their religion being ripped off, something like that. When the first version of the film, those issues, those talks will be included in the film, and a lot of concern were raised to me when I screened the film. It's not an open screening; it's the inner screening in my school, and a lot of students come to me say that the film was great, but have you ever considered that these content may may put those students in danger or in trouble? You know what? I think some of them may exaggerating in their head that something bad may happen, but let's not rule out all the possibilities. But because that there's this sort of a list that the government is making that is not out there, publicly, that you can check on online. It's something that is in their system. It's a list that someone say something, and that may possibly jeopardize their future. He or she may not enter the government section, may not be government official anymore, and their choices may be limited in a way that they don't even realize. So they're kids, and they're being very honest to me while I was filming them and interviewing them, but they probably didn't realize some of the things they said could jeopardize your future, and that's my concern. I don't really think that what they say will put them in jail. That's a little outrage. That's a little exaggerating. But I do think some of the things that they say, if they go on the government's radar, then their future, their career path could change potentially. So I don't want that happen.
Is like I don't know, because like I read some articles like that mention your film, and because I didn't see the whole movie, I just saw the trailer, and I think like these kids are being like they are aspiring to become maybe government officials or to work in the like outside of Tibet. So I don't know. So maybe that is one of your concerns, that if they go to this career.
So right. You're right. Because it's not that their government officials living outside Tibet. It's just that the government is always watching, right? It's, even though you're making a film outside the country, you're making a film in U.S., and it doesn't mean that the Chinese government is not watching you. They have the system to watch all the foreign documentaries, as well as the Chinese documentarians or filmmakers. They're making films about China, and even though they're not ever screened in the mainland China, they're screening outside of China and internationally. They're still being watched, and the things that they say and the things they do, it could jeopardize their characters currently living in mainland China. So you see, it's not like I am the only person that has ever made this film that could jeopardize my characters. It's everyone is like this, and we are trying to see how far we can go, how much we can say within, the guidelines within, or try to, not to find that balance between what we can say and or something that we say a little bit more or a little bit too far we push that could put our characters in danger. That was the balance we're trying to find, and we're still trying to find it, because the thing is that we don't have an actual guideline that is on paper that shows you what you can or cannot say. So we're just trying to see. We're all just testing the water.
So the inner screening that you just mentioned, is it a screening in your the New Start, the program
In my
within the
school,
program?
Yes.
So the student that bring this kind of concerns up, are they Chinese student or student from different countries?
It's actually from most of them are Tibetan students. A lot of students from those boarding school, and then when study abroad. There are 2 students actually told me that, and a lot of Tibetans in exile living in India, they also express some concerns.
So you mean the Tibetan students, they are from Tibet, but they are not. They are now studying in the same. They study in the same master program with you.
No, no. The inner screen is not just for my colleagues. It's for a lot of NYU journalism school or NYU film school students, so to speak. So it's a inner screening, but it's somehow a little public because it's open to the school students.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and I want to ask some several questions about your shooting in Tibet. Are there any procedure that reporter need to go through to shoot in Tibet?
As far as I know, yes. If you're a journalist, if you are a Western foreigner journalist, as a foreigner and a journalist, you have to get a special visa to go to Tibet, no matter what. If you want to report, film, or do any sort of a journalism work in Tibet, you have to go through the government official and try to get that permit. So that's that's what we know. But rarely anyone do that because you don't really you can't get permit if you really go through those procedures. So people just go there and as tourists, and they just shoot. If they encounter any problems, that would be it. And you were, you might be deported. If you're Chinese, then what God knows what happened to you. But the thing is that we all know there are rules, there are regulations that we have to follow. But if you want to tell a story, if you want to report and try to find a good story, especially for New York Times or for CNN, those they just try to go there and try to get their story first. And if something happened, then that would be it. But if something doesn't happen, if they do their job fast enough and no one they go on the radar, they keep low profile, then probably they will get a story, and that was it.
So for your filming, you didn't encounter any of this?
No. Because I am a woman. I am a woman filmmaker, and I'm tiny and very low key. So I just feel like maybe people don't really notice me, and I try not to film police or military. I try not to go to places that are not allowed to film. So
what about
I personally did not encounter anything.
What about, did you follow the students to the temple?
I really can't go to temples. I can't film in temples. That was the place that I cannot film. I cannot film in temples. I cannot film the policemen, the military, soldiers, and the square, in Budala. So sort of that sort of thing. That's common knowledge. You cannot film that. If they find you can secretly film that, of course you can do that. But if they found you do that, it was just it's not worth it.
So these are the things that you before before your like maybe during your preparation for this film, like beforehand, you keep this in mind.
No, of course,
nobody,
you have to do your study. You have to learn these things. You have to know. You can't be just so naive and just carry your camera and go there and just start shooting everything and then. It's just you have to learn these things before you go to Tibet, especially in places like Tibet or Xinjiang. Things could be a little sensitive. Things could be a little touchy, and if you are a journalist, you should know that.
Okay. Yeah. So my last question is, because you said you want to focus more on the cultural aspect, but I don't know. I think like when it comes to Tibet or Xinjiang, like everything related to even culture, even language and religion could be sensitive, and could be related to politics. And yeah, I just want to know what's your thought of this.
The thing is that I try to bring this conversation on a cultural level, but it's not even. It's very hard because I cannot turn blind to those political agenda behind these boarding school because there are political purposes behind this policy, and why this thing has happening for 35 years. And no one talks about it, and no one really wants to talk about it, or no one really talks about it in a political level. There's reason behind it, and they're all politics. And if you try to turn blind to politics and just say, "Oh, it's just a cultural issue," and people are just, they're learning in China and they're losing their language. There's no way to avoid that. It's too naive, and we're lying to ourselves because there are political agenda, and we have to somehow include this in the film, and at least draw people's attention. So in my film, there are political issues inside it, hidden inside it, hinting here, there, somewhere in the film, and then people can receive and can think for themselves. And my approach is that I try not to show my personal side of the story or my opinion or anyone's opinion in the film. I try just let the characters talk. And I ask questions. If they don't want to answer, then I don't include them. If they answered and I feel like, interesting, I'll put that in the film, and I will let the audience decide what to think. And do you think that's a political issue? Then okay. If you think it's not, that's fine.
Okay, I see. Okay, that's all of my questions.
Okay, great.
谢谢，真的是
没关系，实在是太晚了，我也是思路很不清晰。
不，
你有什么问题你直接跟我说。
就是特别就是 thought provoking，就是觉得特别就引人思考这种，因为我之前也不了解。
对，因为确实是蛮就是比较。